healer. It has really specific things that it can do. What was the question again?
So versus a Western technology, when you talk about African technology.
Well, for me, it's really more about validating that. I feel like I'm validating my ability to use that versus a computer, versus some synthetic, I call it synthetic, computerized music and sound score for a dance, versus I just want to use my hands, my fists, and my heels, and looking at different models and paradigms that have existed over 100 years, 1,000 years, or 20,000 years that were really sophisticated organizations and things that they could do that sometimes when we go in our studio and we try and recreate it, it doesn't really do that. And I think a big instigator for me thinking about that word technology and thinking about African methodologies and practices and uses, African and Africanist, was this book by Ron Eglash, African Fractals, and the use of fractal symmetry and how Western geometry just kind of ignored it, dismissed it, and they called them monsters and didn't fit into Euclidean. They just tucked it under and ignored it. I was just like, that sounds like what they did to us, right? It wasn't just the people that they tucked away and ignored. It wasn't just the bodies and the songs, but it was technologies or systems of methodologies of doing stuff. And so thinking about the stuff that we use now to predict the weather, we use for computers, understanding and having fractal symmetry, the ideas of iterations and self-similarity and self-generating ideas are part of divination, are part of weaving, and and in Ron Eglash's book, he talks about it more in what I call material culture. And so I was like, if it's that prevalent in the material culture, it's got to be in the performative culture also. It's got to be in the songs and the dances and the rhythms. So all these things that I'm fascinated and going and trying to get to Africa and get to this little tribe and get to see this little dance and this, it's just like maybe there was some type of organizing device behind it culturally. It wasn't just primitive and savage and they didn't know, but there was a real specific way of thinking about it. And maybe some of the stuff that I'm interested in doing and trying to beg and borrow and steal, actually I can use my own contemporary performative work. So I'm not just replicating something from some other culture, but I can use the idea and see, oh, maybe that's some aspect of some parts of the show, or maybe that's some aspect of something that Twyla or Laura Dean or postmodern experiments, and it becomes something new for me today and present, but it also kind of gives me agency and authority to feel like I'm not just stealing from Europe and white people.
So FYI, Ron was on my dissertation committee. Ron English was on my dissertation committee, FYI. Thank you.